Hey, welcome to StayBattleBorn. Today, it's an honor that I have Command Senior Enlisted Leader with me, Cameron Pieters, and I have the 30th Adjutant General of the great state of Nevada, Major General Ondra Berry. Thank you guys both for being here today. I think that I can't thank you enough because I know that you guys are very busy, but I have some questions I want to throw at you, and hopefully we can get to some answers.
Hopefully we will.
You guys have been around a while. You guys have been in the Guard for a number of years. I know that Chief, you served in active duty for a while, but you guys have been around a long time. You guys entered in, you guys were, that 20, 21, 22, 23. We can remember way back when to those years. What I want you to do is paint a picture for me of what a soldier or an airman coming in at that 21 to 24-year-old age, what's the difference in those young soldiers that we see today, and maybe those young soldiers that you were when you came in? What's the difference?
Let's go first.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for being with us and asking us these questions. The second thing that I want to say is I don't know if everybody knows this out there, but Major General Berry was enlisted before he became an officer. And he was actually the Outstanding Airman of the Year in 1988. So any opportunity I have to remind people that he was enlisted and he did that. So
before this audience was born.
But I think back to when I first joined the National Guard to where I was, 6 years into the National Guard. I think about my experience, and then I also think about the experiences that I see other soldiers and airmen go through.
Yeah.
And that transformation from being, a brand new 18-year-old person coming into the military versus somebody maybe on the verge of re-enlisting in their second term is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the people in that situation really understand the magnitude of it because they've, exponentially grown here, a little bit here, a little bit here. But it's people like General Berry and I that step back and say, wow, you're a totally different person today at, 24, 25 than you were at 18. And watching that happen, because that first enlistment is really the foundation. Yeah. That's really when we get soldiers and the airmen in the organization. We're training them in their MOSs and their AFSCs, and they're really learning the ropes of the organization. Yeah. It's not until the next term, the next enlistment that you get them where they really start firing on all cylinders, and their contribution to the organization in elevating us really starts to show. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely. And I'll go back, and you go back to when I joined, where you talked about the Outstanding Airman of the Year till now. Well, first of all, I use a word called exposure. We just were not exposed to as much in terms of the mission, the warfight, very little about the domestic operations, state partnerships. And so, but I look at those today, deployments are, especially over the last, 10 years have been at a high tempo. When you think about a lot of those in the audience today, have been involved maybe in the COVID mission or a wildfire mission or a search and rescue. That didn't exist when I was coming up. I think about now we talk a lot about Tonga, Fiji, and Samoa being our state partners. They just have the knowledge today that back then we just didn't have the knowledge. And I'll say and the second word is because of technology, because of social media, because you have to learn faster today than back in our times. You got to remember we didn't have a cell phone.
Come on.
Okay, we didn't have a computer. We didn't have an iPad. We just didn't have that, and so it just moved. We had things called teletypes. Okay, so things just didn't move as fast in terms of getting information. The area of MOSs and AFSCs were not as expansive, as they are today. We didn't have a MAFS mission back then. They didn't have a transportation company. Signal was there, but it was not as big. And you just look, they have a different aviation now. And so the opportunities will be the third word that I throw in there, just weren't there. But now we're just touching the tip of the spear in when you see the growth in cyber and the technology, artificial intelligence. These are going to be just fields today that our young workforce now has access to that we really it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say the MOSs and the FSCs over the next 5 to 10 years may not have even been invented. And so we pretty much had a set structure of what was available to us versus what's available now. Like, and even I'll even go back to our professional military education. The learning opportunities just weren't there. Where now so much you can get on the internet and learn. Leadership, growth and development just wasn't there, but now it's available to all. And probably the last thing I'll just say is we just didn't have access to information. To go to out back then, Airman Leadership School. We called it NCO Prep School. Now they call it Airman Leadership School. The opportunities you didn't even know. So if somebody just happened to say, have you ever heard of, because you didn't have the ability to find out about your own career, where now you can just Google what you're supposed to do. And so Google, I didn't know what Google was. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. Okay. There was no Snapchat. So, but now it's just all there. So Tom Pieters wrote a book called The World is Flat. And what he was talking about, the world is connected. Well, now our young people today are more connected to what is going on and have more access and availability. And I'll come full circle to have the exposure to it. And to me, that is the biggest difference in terms of today versus many years ago, and the options and availability. So the exciting part about the National Guard, the exciting part about the military is, if you look at a corporate America versus the National Guard, there's some same similarities in terms of career fields, opportunities, but ours are much more expansive. We get to see and do things that have a noble calling to them. And I never got that back then, but today I just hope our young people understand that what they get a chance to do today saves lives, make a difference from your domestic operations to the war fight. And what we're doing, even with our state partnerships, that I didn't understand back then. Today, they're right in the middle of it. We can't be successful as a National Guard, as a military, without this current generation of young airmen and soldiers. Cannot be successful. Impossible. So thank goodness dinosaurs and unicorns of today are standing on the shoulders and getting out of the way for this younger generation coming up.
Yeah, and I think it's exciting. When you were talking, I jotted down a few things, and the soldier, that 21 to 24-year-old soldier that's in their third year, in the middle of their term, they exist in a very dynamic culture. Mm-hmm. Where I'm not saying that when you guys first came in, it wasn't dynamic, but I think the dynamicy is huge. Mm-hmm. Now, the second one is those soldiers that are today, as they compared to long ago, the soldiers today are extremely flexible because they got so much to take on. Mm-hmm. You talked about SPP, you talked about domestic operations and all of. They have to be flexible.
That's right.
Our governor Lombardi, when he was downstairs talking about it, he said, when he came and addressed us, he said, when I came to drill, we pulled triggers and shot the tanks, and we went home. And that was about it. Yeah. So our soldiers need to be flexible. And then the other one that I heard you say was their capacity needs to be huge. Mm-hmm. Let me rephrase that. Their capacity continues to grow, right, as they spend more time in the opportunities that they have in the National Guard with the education that's out there. Right. It's huge. Now, here's a question I would ask. We have soldiers that are going, we're not retaining them. They're going out faster than they're coming in some situations. It's a normal attrition. Some people want to go do what they want to do in life. Thank you for your service. Continue mission. Got it. But others, they want to get out because of maybe poor leadership. They want to get out because they don't feel heard. They want to get out because they haven't been seen. How do you answer that question of those difficult topics that you look at from as high as they are in the National Guard, in the state of Nevada? You two sit at the top of the hill and you look at those things, and how can we correct them? Or what are we doing to correct them?
Well, I would say, first of all, that's where we need your help. That's where we need to listen to the soldiers and airmen that are out there and really meet them where they are. We want to go out and meet you where you are in order to really understand that. Because when it comes to leadership, when it comes to providing good leadership, strong leadership, not providing toxic leadership, we have to ensure that not only are we keeping an eye on and focusing on that first and second term airmen, we have to be focusing on the senior NCOs. We have to be focusing on the company grade officers that are leading those people. And they're still growing and they're still learning. And that's where we at the top of the leadership team have to get out there and really engage as a leadership team, not just the soldiers and airmen in their first and second term. We have to engage in the company grade officer realm, in the senior NCOs. We have to ensure that the sergeants majors and the chiefs they have the resources they need to be successful for retention. And that's one of the things that we're always looking at, we're always trying to refine, we're always trying to get better at.
And your question is real. And I think it's fair for both of us to say, all three of us to say, that there's some times in our career that we have worked for a leader that may not have been conducive or top notch or had our best interest in mind. It's fair to say that. And so, and in the position I sit in, I think about that a lot and have thought about that a lot. Coming into this role as the Adjutant General, we had 4 strategic priorities. One was, we talk about readiness, we talk about care for members, families, and employers. We talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then we talk about community. One we added on was development, because everything rises and falls on good or bad leadership. And heard said before many times, everybody wins when a leader gets better. So we've invested a lot into leadership. We've invested a lot into coaching. We've invested a lot into developing our workforce. Beyond PME, one of the most important lessons I learned a long time ago is somebody drew 2 circles. One circle it was influence, and it said, which circle do you live in? The circle of concern or the circle of influence? And a lot of times I will spend concerned about a situation versus what I can influence. And you can lead from anywhere. And that's why development is so important. Where are you going to spend time? And again, I take for real in terms of somebody who works for a leader that's not very well. But when you spend more time in influence, your circle tends to grow. The other thing I will say is change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Change is going to happen. If you look at our organization, if you look at our different, whether it be a company, group, battalion, whatever it may be, you will see a lot of change happens in our organization. And what you find is, if you can stick with it, if you have the resilience, if you're developing yourself, you will see the organization gravitate towards really putting leaders in great places. So, and you get a chance to impact that. So I don't minimize what people say of not maybe working for a good leader, but I do tell them, part of the growth process, because you can learn from anybody. Part of the growth process is to grow and learn in the situation that you're in. But one of the things about the military is you're going to work for numerous leaders. And one day, you hang in there, you're going to be the one responsible. You're going to be the one in charge. You're going to be the one touching people. You're going to be the one developing people. And take all those lessons that you have acquired along the journey. And I'll tell you, once you've been in about 4 to 6 years, that's when you start to develop a foundation of thinking. I always say this: when I find a good leader, they know how to identify and solve problems. When they find a problem, they own it, and then they have an urgency about getting it done. You will be one of those identify and solve. You'll be one of those critical thinkers. You'll be one of those decision makers. You'll be one of those responsible for people, which is, there's no higher calling than that. And so go back to asking yourself this question: no matter what the situation, no matter who the leader is, what is life teaching me right now? And how can I apply this when I'm in positions of responsibility and leadership? Because at the end of the day, leadership is influence. And John Maxwell writes a book called 360-Degree Leadership. And he says, you can lead your leader. You can lead your leader. And he specifically talks about challenging leaders that you can lead. So even though I may have somebody that's responsible for me, may have a higher rank, also you're an influencer in how you show up and how you role model, in how you live the core values, and how you continue to grow and develop and learn. So take those lessons learned, and as we say, put them in our toolbox, because there will be a time that I will be able to execute and be in a position of higher responsibility. So I'll just kind of end this by saying this. When you've got that 4 to 6 years in, that is when you are really at a point where you have honed and learned and been exposed to so much in your military career. And that's when you can make the biggest quantum leaps in a military organization, if you have the right attitude, desire, drive, hunger, passion, commitment, focus, dedication to wanting to be better.
Okay, I got like 400 more questions. That was really, really good stuff. Okay, you said something in there. Lead your leader. Man, I think that's so powerful. I was told years ago, you're not always going to have the bad leader that you have at this time. Because I had a bad leader, and I didn't know what to do. I was young. I was confused. I thought, I was in here to do something good, and no matter how much I try to do something good, I'm just getting beat down, metaphorically, just getting beat down. And I wanted out. We've talked before, and there was times in your guys' career where you thought, it's time for me to hang this up. But you're still here today. Why? Because you were all those great things that you just talked about. There's a question coming. And the question is this. What are some advice that you're going to give that young soldier in his first term, maybe in their second term? They have a bad leader, or they're whatever organization that they're in, they just don't care for it. How do they lead their leader? Give them some practical things.
I'll throw this out first before I get to the question. If you go around, look at our organization, there's a flyer up, and it talks about the joint mentoring program. If you haven't taken the time to get a mentor, I always say somebody probably a little bit older, a little bit wiser, more experienced. If you haven't taken the time to get a mentor, it's a missed opportunity. Yeah. It's like throwing money away. It's a missed opportunity. And going back to how do I lead my leader? First of all, I always look at it from this standpoint. No matter what section, group, squadron, company you are in, there's always a chance for what I call innovation and creativity. How can I improve this? What am I doing to take off the leader's plate? What I used to always ask this question when people will come in front of me: what's the last good idea that you brought to our organization, no matter what level you're at, to just make us better? I don't care from how we qualify, to how we drive, to how I'm a good battle buddy or a wingman. What's the last good idea that you brought? Here's another thing that every leader always admires: just a sharp troop. And are you meeting all your qualifications? Do you come in ready for whether drill, AT, daily work? Because it takes off the plate of the person that you work for, your leader, having to, straighten you up, having to give you feedback. Another thing I tell them, how do you lead your leader, is it's okay to ask at least once a month, where can I be doing better? Because you don't want to wait till you get that EPR. You don't want to wait till you get that evaluation. You don't want to wait till then. You always want to know where you're at. So, always ask, how am I doing? Where am I at? It's always good to ask this question too. I always say that every MOS or FSC has a descriptor to it. I call that your job. But then there's, and then some. What else can I do to add value to this team, to this company, to this group? What can I do to add value? Leaders love that. Another thing that I saw someone do, because you should always be asking the question, because everybody has to do their job. So a great thing to do is think about the career field that you're in. Think about an article or reading on it. Bring it to them and say, let me tell you something I've read, and here's how it applies to us. Here's what we can do differently. Here's a learning that I got from it. Because one of the things we try to do as an organization is have a campaign of learning here. And so anything that you can do to have it help in the areas of growth and development, in the areas of growth and development. The research says this, not me. When you stop growing, when you stop developing, you get negative, you get frustrated, you get a bad attitude, you get unhappy. So, because we're meant to be vibrant, to grow. So think about it. You know, I did an exercise one time when I asked people, said, describe for me a great leader that you've worked for in one word descriptors. And people would throw out, you know, committed, dedicated, empathy. They would throw all these great words. And then I like to show people, is that an attitude or a skill? And what you find is what they find in all the good leaders are great attitudes. Guess how much having a great attitude costs? It's a choice.
Yep.
It's a choice. How can I lead my leader? By showing them a phenomenal attitude. And we talk about what is an attitude? It's the mental conversations that you have with yourself. Yep. So how you show up, the energy that you have, the commitment that you have, the dedication that you have, the ideas that you have, all that you bring for free. And when a leader sees that, you become the example and you become the role model. And the last thing I can say is how you can lead your leader. Live the core values, not just in words, but in actions. If we said, let's put up the soldier who has lived the core values, would your picture be up there? Would your picture be up there?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Would your picture be up there? And that's how you lead the leader.
Yeah. Results, productivity, attitude, right in this triangle. You know, one of the things that I would say is if you can hear my voice and you're a leader in this organization, you better go to Purple Resolve.
Come on.
And the reason I say that is because Purple Resolve brought so much to the table for me and other people that I've known, that I know that have gone through it. But one of them was about self-awareness. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, I think that I'm doing a good job as a leader. I think that I come across as approachable. I think that I'm a certain way. But it's not, the people around you are the ones that really know the answers to that.
Yeah.
So there are definitely leaders out there that are doing the best that they can, but they don't realize how they're coming across. So that's where I would say, as a leader, you want to look in that Purple Resolve mirror and say, well, you know, what am I doing? How am I coming across? How can I be better? I know that doesn't really answer the lead the leader question, but I think it's very, very important because I think even in the short time that I've been the Command Senior Enlisted Leader, my growth has been huge because I've been put in a position working with this guy. I'm not going to name any names. And, you know, he's the ultimate, he holds people accountable at the highest level.
Yeah.
So when you're leading and you don't have somebody that's holding you accountable, you could be waffling out there and your people could be suffering because of it. And then retention suffers because of that as well. So that growth piece is very, very important. So I think as a leader, you really have to work on your leadership abilities. You have to have somebody that you can confide in and say, hey, how am I coming across? You got to read books. You really have to work on being a leader because anybody can sit behind the computer and shuffle emails around, right? That's not what leadership is, right? Leadership is engaging the people, inspiring, and ultimately influencing them. And really, at the end of the day, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
So
That's that old saying. I love what you guys said. Thank you, because it it draws a picture for that soldier, airman, whoever it is that's struggling to understand how to do that. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we get stuck and we can't get unstuck because we're in our own head. And I heard this said one time, I can't lead up if I'm not leading in.
Yeah.
So often we get caught up in it's their fault. It's everybody's fault. It's his fault. It's her fault. If my spouse would only do this, I could be better. But at the end of the day, when we're stuck, whatever that stuck is in their lives, we need to look in, just like that mirror you're talking about. You need to look in and say, where can I be doing better? Mm-hmm. What can I, and not tomorrow isn't going to be, you're not going to be a millionaire tomorrow. All your problems are going to be solved tomorrow. But as a leader, if you want to get better, what's those little habits that you can change? The small little things that you can change. Thank you guys for that. Next question. how does a soldier or an airman, and this is what they said to me, I don't believe that what I have to offer is of value to the team. And that wasn't just one, that was a number of soldiers that I talked to. Second thing that they told me was, I don't feel a sense of belonging with my fellow soldiers, my team. How do we get after that, helping them understand that they are valued, that they all have a sense of belonging, and that they're seen? How do we get after that so that they understand that we're doing something about it?
Well, I'll start off with this right here. We say this as a cliche, but I think we really have to take this to heart. We'll say, leave no airman or soldier behind. My battle buddy, my wingman, we are a family, you matter. We have to take that to heart, and I've been saying this a lot lately, when we said, mission first, people first, mission always, or I've turned it around. They say mission first, people always, or people first, mission always. Well, it always starts with people.
Yeah.
It always starts with people. You have to understand that. It always starts with people. That's number one. But number two, if you ask me what MOS or AFSC in this organization could we get rid of today, I don't have one right now. So if you think it doesn't matter in terms of who you are and what you do and your relevance, you're missing that. They all matter. They all matter. And then I talk about this thing called leadership engagement. And I ask this to a soldier and airman all the time. I said, who's the leaders in the room? And they'll point to, the master sergeant, the chief, whatever. They'll point to the lieutenant colonel. I said, no, it starts with you.
Yeah.
It starts with you. And we are all leaders because we're all influencers and we all get to make an impact. And so from a relevance standpoint, we can't do this mission. From a readiness standpoint, we can't do this mission. From a value contribution standpoint, we can't do this mission without every single person that we have in here. But I don't care who you are as a person, we have a need to connect or belong.
Yeah.
And if we say that a person is a person because of other people, we invoke each other's potential by our willingness to see the essence in them. If we really believe that, then we got to make sure we're bringing people into existence. What if every day we made the point to reach out to just the 2 or 3 people that we ordinarily don't?
Yep.
You've heard me say this many times. People are at different places in their career, in their life, and everybody's fighting some kind of battle. Everybody is. Everybody's fighting some kind of battle. And that's why I got to have my people awareness antenna up all the time.
Yeah.
Because walking past you with somebody that may be struggling, somebody thinking about getting out, somebody's not happy in their career place, somebody doesn't think they belong, somebody thinks they're not relevant. And sometimes all it takes is a word. Yep. All it takes is spending time with them. All it takes is an acknowledgement. All it takes is you matter to this organization. And it can make a huge difference. The small things that we can do to ensure that every one of our people know, our soldiers and airmen, our service members know, we cannot do this without you, and we are not going to leave you behind. And it's more than just words; it's going to be actions, and there is a commitment to people. I get asked this question. What do you want people to remember when you leave here? I get asked the questions when you get older. And if you go back and look at the track record of our organization, I'm not going to say me or you, our organization, you will see a heavy investment in people, our readiness, the mission, getting force structure, for purple resolve, having more psychological health professionals, having more counselors, investing more in leadership. That's all people stuff.
Yep.
That's all people stuff. Working on facilities to take care of people, working on their mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health. That's all people stuff.
Yeah.
And so you matter. If anybody tells you anything different, walk away from them because not on our watch. You matter, and you're relevant. And if you don't think you belong, come and I invite anybody to come and spend some time with us, and we can show how we're so interconnected. And on a regular basis, I get to go to talk to whether it's Director of the Army Guard, Director of the Air Guard, General Lowe, General Jensen, General Hokanson, the Chief of the National Guard Bureau, our Senior Enlisted Leader. I mean, I could just, Whitehead. I could keep going on and on and on, and start talking to the leadership, go to meetings, talk to my peer group. And I tell them every chance I get, pound for pound, look at the 54, go around the nation, you ain't going to find a better organization of airmen and soldiers who serve and are committed and take care of their state, our war fight, our homeland, our partnerships than the men and women that serve in the Nevada National Guard.
Come on.
So if you haven't heard it, you matter. You're important. And what you do makes a difference.
I appreciate that. Same question.
I would say,
Tell them.
no. Ditto. Yeah, what this guy said. No. One of the things that I want to highlight is, and I may be jumping ahead a little bit here, but I want to talk about, our peer competitors. Like, why is it that we have to have the military that we have today? And when we look at our peer competitors out there, it's about deterring them. It's deterring them from going out and picking a fight with another country or having to engage the United States military. And how do we do that? Well, tanks and airplanes and ships are important, but what's more important is people. Because if we take that out of the equation, then we have nothing. And that's why General Berry and I focus so much on the people piece. I've talked to commanders, I've talked to sergeants majors, I've talked to chiefs, and a lot at the squadron and the battalion level are about how do we make the best soldier? How do we make the best airman? Like, I want this person to be the best in their Air Force Specialty Code. I want this one to be the best in their MOS. Like, I just really want to focus on that piece. Well, we have to focus on a bigger piece, which is the heart set mindset. We have to focus on helping people combat those demons in their mind and not just be very, very good at whatever their specialty is. Because when it comes to dealing with adversity, when it comes to resilience, that's where the people piece that is creating that deterrence is so important. And he mentioned pound per pound in the whole 54. The soldiers and airmen of the Nevada National Guard are the best in the business. And I believe that as well. And it's because of the investment that we have at this level of investing in people. And I know that sometimes people want to just focus on only the readiness piece. But I would tell you that is readiness. Making sure that you can do more than just handle some sort of military conflict adversity. Because we're going to ask people to do things domestically. We're going to ask people to take care of their home life. We're going to ask people to worry about things that in their day-to-day life that civilians have to deal with as well. And if they have the tools to do that and they have the training and the ability to do that, it just makes us a stronger force. And I really think that the bottom line message really is that we invest in people.
Oatmeal this, write it down, type it.
I'm ready.
Text it. People readiness is the key to readiness. People readiness is the ultimate readiness. People readiness wins the fight. I mean, it starts with people readiness. And again, I said, we got that backwards sometimes by thinking it's other kind of readiness. When the person is complete, taken care of, focused, made whole, they'll take care of the mission. You take care of the people, they'll take care of the mission. So
Good stuff.
they matter.
Okay, and so I'm sure that Rob's probably almost out of film, and he's probably going crazy because
This is just the first quarter.
Yeah, it's the first quarter. No, here's the question. It's not even anywhere in here. But you guys have used the word 100 times. We've seen it 1,000 times. We've seen it on posters. It's your number one priority.
We don't negotiate on readiness.
Here's the question. I think that coming from you guys, understanding define what it means to me, what readiness means. Because I think that far too often, a lot of things hide behind readiness. And I'm saying that in a negative connotation. Hey, we got to do this because it's about readiness.
Or we can't do this because we're
Because of
focused on readiness.
So define readiness for me in your terms.
Yeah.
Nope.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. When you look at, when you just start off with the guard model, always ready, always there.
Good point.
So when you talk about readiness, it's ready for the fight. Your deployments, your domestic operations, taking care of, us, this nation globally, making sure I have the skill sets and whatever my MOS, AFSC may be, making sure I have honed and practiced and got the right habits for whatever I'm called to do, whether it's, to go, we have people downrange right now, or we get called to Washington, D.C., or our commander-in-chief, the governor, reaches out to us. Having that mental, physical, emotional capability and attributes to respond when called upon based off of the mission that we are asked to do.
Love it.
Now, before you see the outward readiness, I think the inward readiness is even more key. Are they right here and here in order to respond and execute on what they've been tapped on the shoulder to do? So that's why we start with people. What are we doing from a resiliency standpoint? What are we doing from a mental capability, capacity standpoint? What are we making sure that we do that they are okay intellectually? Are they, I say this all the time, life is more mental than it is physical, So are they ready mentally for what they've been tapped on the shoulder and asked to do? So when you go back to what you ask as readiness, it's that the person internally is ready to meet the external calling and has the capabilities and capacity to execute based off of what they've trained to do and the direction they're given, and to meet what we as a Nevada National Guard are asked to do domestically and abroad.
I love it. Always ready, always there. And then, you tie that in there. It's just beautiful. I think that, Chief, I didn't give you a chance. I'll shut up.
Well, I really liked how you started off by saying we hide behind readiness to not have to do certain things. And, if that's the elephant in the room, let's talk about that for a second. Because, again, it's so easy to be like, I can't get to that. I can't get to that because I'm just focused on training, soldiers and airmen over here to execute in their AFSC or their MOS.
Yeah.
Like if that's what's going on out there, we're missing a big piece. Because again, if we send them overseas, let's say we send them out to the Pacific to execute against one of our peer competitors, or we send them on a fire to go fight a fire domestically, or we send them somewhere to support our state and our governor, commander-in-chief, and they don't have the ability to handle that. Like they can't understand that, oh man, there's going to be some adversity with this. I'm going to have to put myself in a position where it's probably not going to all be fun. I'm going to have to be able to deal with that. Oh, what's going on with my family back home? Are my finances in order? Is my spouse taken care of? Are my children safe? Like if they're worried about that and they don't have all those aspects in line, how can we ask them to go be the best in their specialty?
Come on.
And that's why, again, I go back to what we have to focus on at this level, which is having those hard conversations and talking about that heart-set mindset, talking about how we can minimize suicides, how we can omit any sexual harassment, sexual assaults that take place within our organization. Because if people are not focused on those challenges and they're just focused on, oh, let's just make this person the best in their specialty, we're missing a big piece and we're going to lose people, and we don't want that to happen.
No.
Amen.
In closing, that this is Sergeant First Class Deals, StayBattleBorn, that. So in closing, what would you part with saying to the audience that's listening? What's your closing statement?
So as people walk out the door They said, thank you, I've served my time, I'm done. I want you to understand that, we hear you, we see you, we appreciate all the sacrifices that you've made. And if there's any way that we can retain you because we know that you're key to this organization, please let us know.
Yeah. Sir, same question.
First of all, I think the StayBattleBorn is probably one of the best things that we do as an organization because it's a huge investment in our future, and it's a key indicator of our commitment to doing what's right and best to let our people know that they matter, and it's a mission that that we have to stay dedicated and focused on this. Second thing I will say is something I think about a lot, and I'll tell anybody this: begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. And all of us have had those exercises where they say, where do you want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah. And I just tell people, just reflect on that. If you don't do anything else, just reflect on that. In terms of where you want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And there's a lot of people who will say things like this: woulda, shoulda, coulda. Yeah. If I could do it all over again. I run into many veterans who said, I should have stayed in. Yeah. I wish I would have hung in there, because life does seem convenient and hard and complex at times. It just does.
Yep.
So nobody says this road would be easy. No one said that. But begin with the end in mind. Think about where you aspire to be, in your career, with your family, having a home. And this is a big piece of friendships, relationships, training, development, changing careers to learn different MOSs, AFSCs, travel, all those things that come with, if I thought about all that the military gave me, I'd be like a bunch of big bags of just stuff that and I've lost or forgotten more than I will ever have learned. So I say that. The other thing I'll throw out is very few times, and I know this because I've been around for a minute, very few times in your life and your career do you get a chance to be a part of a better practice. Very few times. It just doesn't happen a lot. And if you think about, I used this earlier, trending, the Nevada National Guard, if you go back to, you talk to your peers in other states, you talk to people at National Guard Bureau, you talk to our partners in the total force, that they talk about, wow, you guys are doing some great things. We've sent people, our leaders, to work in California, the largest state, because of the capabilities here. We have a lot of people working back at NGB. We have people get to go downrange and deploy. We have people doing great work right here in our state. We're growing our force structure. We're asking for more in our legislature than we ever have. We're being a better practice and growing. But I'm telling you, there's one part to this though. Imagine this is just a big puzzle and it's all put together and is missing one piece. That piece is you. And it just ain't complete unless we have all of our pieces to the puzzle, and it's all the different shapes and sizes. We can't, which is why I love diversity, we can't be who we are without the best of who our airmen and soldiers are. So we need all of us to be our best. And so I'm just saying, help us to continue to make our puzzle bigger, because that grows our missions, that grows our force structures, that grows our future. Last thing I'll say is this. I always get asked, people say this all the time, because as you get older, you think about, did I matter? Did I make a difference? Did I make a contribution? And I'm sure he will ask this, and you will ask this, each of you will ask this: is the organization better because of the time I've spent here? Or did I leave it incomplete? And I don't never want to have to think twice about that. I never want to think twice about that. And I'm telling you, those young airmen and soldiers, they have a lot more runway in them to give to make our organization even better. And so whenever you make the decision to leave with your head up, because you've given everything possible. We didn't say it was going to be easy. We didn't say it wasn't going to be a challenge. We didn't say it wasn't going to be frustrating. We didn't say sometimes you'll be frustrated about what you have to go through, or a tough leader, or, you know, this assignment, or want to transfer, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And there's a reason why the enemy won't attack the United States. Because those who wear this, they would if they could. So if you ever have to wonder, because you get to wear this, you're the less than 1% doing a noble profession each and every day. And that's why we keep getting up after 30 plus years. So begin with the end in mind, because it's worth it.
Thank you. Thank you both. When we were setting up today, I think it was the chief that said, this video is Stay Battleborn. And he said, Stay Battleborn, stay battle ready. And I think there's no way better than to end it. Stay Battleborn,
Stay battle ready.
Thank you guys.